Welcome back to the Always Connected series. My name is Joe Higgins. I'm a medium and I'm a channeler, and I do research on afterlife. I've written 5 books around that whole subject of the afterlife and how our loved ones try to connect with us. If you're interested in reading my books, you can find them on Amazon. Just put Joe Higgins into the search label and my book should come up. And you can always contact me on my website, joehiggins.com, if you have any questions, and we will go from there. So tonight, or today, depending on where you are, we're going to talk about a couple of sign stories because I just love talking about them, and I think it's great to be able to share them with each other so people think that when it happens to them, that they're not just making things up in their own mind, and it gives them confidence to know that other people are experiencing signs. So I always like to share some of them, and I'm also going to share a story about well, I'll get into that when we're done the sign stories, because I just don't know how to present it because it's so bizarre. It's not bizarre, but it's unusual. All right, so the first song, yeah, I'll be singing show tunes for you this evening, and but I do sing out of key, and I'm out of tune, and but anyway, I'm just looking through my book, my first book, Hello Anyone Home, and in this book it kind of explains the whole process on how signs are given, why they're given, how to accept a sign, how to ask for signs, and in this particular story comes from a chapter, How to Understand and Accept a Sign. So I think it's important. How to accept a sign is really important because a lot of times people, they'll say, oh, I think that was a sign. I think that was a sign from my loved one, but it's like, oh, I'm not sure. And they become really doubting a lot, and then the other side tries to send us more signs, and then they're like, oh, I think it is, but no. And the more it happens, what happens is the other side finally gets to the point, it's like, all right, listen, we're not going to send you more signs unless you start to accept some of these and admit that they're really, our love continues and we're still alive. So one of the big things to accept a sign is once you ask for a sign, and that's just, you can ask it through a prayer, you could say it out loud, to a loved one, Mom, send me a sign. Let it go. Don't put any conditions on it, like I had talked about in other episodes, because they know when to do it. They know how they're going to do it. They're going to know if they do it, because they don't want to scare you or upset you or anything like that. So let them do all the heavy lifting, as they say, and just let it go. And then hopefully you'll be able to get a sign. Now, the thing about getting a sign is it'll come out of nowhere, basically. And when I mean that is like you'll be doing something else, not thinking about that particular loved one, and a sign will come. Actually, you might be thinking about your loved one at that particular time, but you'll be doing some other activity or something like that, and all of a sudden a sign will appear. And so what I'm trying to say is don't be looking for signs from your loved ones all over the place, because some people will. Some people are like, oh, I pulled out of my garage today and I heard a dog bark, and oh, my mother loved dogs. She loved dogs. And then I took a right, and when I got to the corner, I saw a blue car. I'm like, oh, my mother's best friend had a blue car. I know that's a sign from her. People will go off the deep end on this stuff, and don't be looking all over the place. When Mom wants to give you a sign, she'll give you the sign, and if you're open to it, it'll just hit you inside. And you'll get a warm, fuzzy feeling, as they say, and that love connection will have been met. If you're looking all over the place and, owls and hawks and birds are turning into grandma and grandpa and stuff like that, you're forcing it, And so let it happen more naturally. And that's how you can tell if you really get a sign, because it's going to hit you, like I said, you're going to kind of get a chill, and you're going to be like, oh my God, that was a sign. And that's important. That's important because if it doesn't hit you like that, the chances are it's not a sign. So if you're picking stuff like, oh, look, there's a bluebird, that's a sign. It might not be, you know. Although, if you're doing something, you're out in the backyard and a bluebird just comes up and it lands right next to you, and that you have a relative that is associated with bluebirds, maybe they raised them, or maybe it was their favorite type of bird or something like that, then you can say, you know, that's definitely a sign. So, ask for the sign, let it go, don't put any conditions on it, and then just be open that you'll receive one. And they'll pick the time, the place, and, you know, don't get upset if you don't get one right away. I mean, it depends. I mean, sometimes I've gotten signs very quickly after someone's passed, and sometimes I haven't gotten a sign. I think my father, the first time he came through, was probably about maybe 10 years after. So, but I had gotten other signs from other people, and I know other people have gotten signs from their loved ones, and just knowing the fact that they do get these signs, I knew that life goes on after we pass, and that that loving connection is still there. So that's what's great about sharing signs, so other people realize you don't have to necessarily get a sign, even though we all want one. But if you see other people that have gotten signs and talk about it, then you have to look at the big picture. And the big picture is we don't die, and we are all connected, and we always will be. Now, not to say that if you had a relative or something that was a real jerk and you don't want to contact him and stuff like that, you don't have to. You know, I'm not saying you're not obligated to ask for a sign or get a sign from someone that you don't like. But the option of, you know, your loved ones coming through and stuff like that, that you have control over that. You have control of the other one too. But you know, you set the parameters on that. So, on that note, I just picked up. I'm just going to read one of these stories, and it's about a woman that she's just going about her daily life, and it's called 2 months later. So it's obviously 2 months after her loved one passed. And I'm going to read it verbatim from the book, so because it's in her words. When people send me their stories, I like to keep them as close, almost exactly as they send them. I might check them for grammar or something like that, so that I can screw up the grammar and no one will understand it. And so I give it to my editor so I can understand it. So anyways, this one's titled 2 months later. Today I was reading one of my aunt's pocket calendars as she kept detailed notes of her ongoing schedules throughout most of her life. She might call them, some people might call them journals, but for someone who had a busy work week and a very busy schedule, her daily pocket planners were the way to go, which is a great idea. You know, I always tell people, like, keep a journal by your bed, and you know, for dreams, you might wake up in the middle of the night and have a dream, you want to remember it, so you write it down and stuff. But those little journal books, you know, like that people keep in their pocketbook or their back pocket or something like that, those are great too, especially if you're traveling. So, looking at some of her final months was interesting because she tried to keep a schedule even though her physical body was starting to give out. Quote, today I went to Stop and Shop in the afternoon, called a friend, and as she started to feel more run down and the weather became colder and more unpredictable, many of the notations would show her saying, staying in most of the day. Frequently it would say, doctor's appointment in the morning, stayed in the balance of the day. Had my hair done, stayed in the balance of the day. Went food shopping in the morning but returned due to weather, stayed in the balance of the day. I found that expression odd since I had never heard any of these expressions in my 50 years. So whether she went to the market or the doctor's, she would very often end her entry into her journal, stayed in the rest of the day. Oh no, stayed in balance of the day. That night before I went to bed, I said, gee, you know, I haven't gotten a contact from her in a while, and I was wondering why. The very next morning, as I was driving to work, I began to think about her notes in her daily calendar, and within 2 minutes, as the weatherman on the radio was wrapping up his report, he said that it would be a partly cloudy day and humid for the balance of the day. I began to smile, and a warm feeling came over me, knowing that I had received another sign from my loving aunt. See, like that's what I was just saying about that warm feeling that'll come over you, because it'll be like, oh my God, it'll be like one of those moments is like, oh my God, that makes sense. The fact that she was thinking of her a couple minutes before, bang, it was there, is another common occurrence. And from what I learned, they actually put that thought in your mind, so you're thinking about them because they know how the sign's going to play out, that a particular sign's going to play out. In this case, it was the weatherman on her car radio when she was commuting to work. So it's just really cool how it works, and this played in exactly how, my sister made the connection. That was my sister Maureen that did that one. Now she has another one in here that I thought was really cool. Oh yeah. This one's pretty cool. This is a sound, like we had talked in one of the early episodes. They like to use a lot of the most common ones: smells, sounds, electronics, dreams. Obviously, that's the number one way they try to get through to us because we're more relaxed. And in this particular one, it's called One Ringy Dingy, Two Ringy Dingy. And that's kind of a takeoff on a comedian in the 70s. What was her name? That was her call line for her comedy sketch, because she was an operator. Name, I can't remember her name. If you remember the name, please put it down below, because it's going to drive me crazy. During the next few days after my aunt had passed, late at night I began to hear the house phone ringing downstairs while I was upstairs. The problem was that it was not ringing on any of the upstairs phones, not even on the phone next to my bed. So these are all landlines before the cell phones. This situation should not have been possible, but it happened at least 3 or 4 different times. Then in a dream a few days later, my cell phone was ringing with that unique tune it has, and I thought, who's trying to contact me? This is in a dream. I soon realized who it must have been, because this was the perfect sign, since I worked for the telephone company and my aunt had worked for the phone company for 43 years. So that's a good example of shared memories and the connection. So it made perfect sense that she would come through with a sign that would have something to do with their shared work environment. So it was, and it came through in a dream. Like I said, it was probably easier to come through, instead of ringing the house phones every night, in different rooms and stuff. She was able to make that connection in a dream. So obviously my aunt had come through and made that connection, which was really cool. So right now, we touched on a few different things like that: how to ask for a sign, how to accept a sign, how they will use common memories or things that are associated with the two people. So what they won't do is, they're not going to send you a sign that has nothing to do with them or you, okay, or a shared memory. So, if someone like played golf, okay, and you played golf, and when you played it with your uncle or something like that, you might get a sign related to golf or some type of sports thing. But what they're not going to do is, he's not going to send you a sign that has to do with something with baking, like baked goods or something like that, it's just going to go right over your head. Unless there's a particular story between the two of you where you guys were making pizza or something and you blew up the kitchen. That's different. So, let them do the heavy work. Let them figure out how to make the contact and where they're going to do. And don't be like chasing it all over the place, because, we got enough things going on in our life. You don't want to be looking left and right. And usually when that happens, you kind of miss the sign too. So let it play out normally. And when you get that warm, fuzzy feeling, you're like, oh my God, that was really my mom, my dad, my sister, or my spouse. So that's how you can really tell if it's a real one, because people are like, how do I know it's real? It's like, did it hit you? Do you think it was real? I mean, give yourself a break. Don't always be a doubt. Even though I've done the same thing when I got my two same signs within 6 days, which caused me to write this book. So, But I apologized. I said, can I have another sign, please? And I know better. So that's coming from me. So I can understand everyone saying, yeah, okay. Was it a sign? But we'll talk about group signs in another episode, because those are fascinating, because they organize those so that other people will see the same sign, and what it does, it reinforces that sign to the person that's receiving it, and also the fact that it's shared with a group, because some people in that group might not necessarily believe in signs, or they might be like, on the fence, like, I'm not sure about it. But when other people around them get the sign and everyone witnesses it, it kind of gives those people permission to say, well, wait a minute, Jim got it, Bob got it, maybe it really was our buddy that came through, So there are different reasons for group signs, but that's one of them, to reinforce the sign and to give more validation to someone in that group. So on that note, like always, if you have some signs, connections from a loved one, just put it in the comment section, and I can talk about it, or at least share it. That's what's really cool. People want to hear these things. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the like button, because I guess you got to do that so that we can get more followers and more people can share their sign stories, and we can get into some great discussions. So that's it for tonight, or today, or depending where you are, and we will see you again soon. Take care.